It's sad to see all those brands and not see British Midland, or BMI as we became, bmibaby as Midlands-based airlines contributing to the economy. And I think the implications of Brexit for the aviation sector are quite serious, particularly in this country. So I'll talk a little bit about that as I go through this presentation. The other thing just to bear in mind with the weak pound is it's not just your spending money when you get to your holiday destination that's worth less now. You know, the airplanes we buy, whether they be from Airbus or Boeing, are all priced in dollars. The engines that we buy from Rolls-Royce made in Derby are priced in dollars. The fuel that we put in the airplane is all priced in dollars. So, you know, the impact on this country is going to be quite serious from an aviation perspective. I'm not really a marketeer. You'll work that out fairly quickly when you go through the presentation. But I have been in the business 30 years. And I guess when I moved over to the low-cost sector, when we set up bmibaby, I did realize that retail was an important part of how we were going to be successful. And I think the truth is that airlines are, by their very nature, the lifeblood of international trade. But if we're honest, most airlines are pretty lousy at being retailers. We had some really good logos in the airline business, some of them here. Good logos, didn't say Pan Am or TWA. So we were good at sort of branding ourselves from a logo perspective, but I think most people in the airline business, including me, didn't really understand the difference between branding and logos. You know, it's easy to say that's the identity of the airline, but in reality, it's not enough on its own. So brand management was kind of a new concept to us, and certainly when British Airways started talking about brands and our products being brands in the late 80s, early 90s, most people in the airline business thought this was some mumbo-jumbo science coming out of some university, and we all had a fair amount of disdain for it. And I think it's important to understand why that is. The truth is the airline business is not a normal industry. It was incredibly highly regulated. Just 35 years ago, everything we did was controlled. If we wanted to fly a particular route, we had to get permission from both governments. When I was at British Midland, we wanted to fly to Budapest before liberalisation came into the EU. And we had to actually go to court to try and get some British Airways capacity off them so that we could fly to try and offer a competitive service. The ownership restrictions, airlines had to be owned and controlled by nationals of the country that they were based in. Even today, in 2016, I as a British citizen could not be the CEO of a US airline. It would be illegal because the US still requires that all their CEOs are nationals of the United States. So this legacy of control really framed how we thought. We used to have what they call tariff coordination. We used to go to meetings. It was like the UN. And we'd all sit in this big room, and we'd have a bat, like a table tennis bat, with our two-letter code. So BA was British Airways, we had BA on our bat. And we used to vote on whether we put up the business class ticket from Brussels to Birmingham by 2% that year. And everyone would put their bat up and say yes or no. It was ridiculous, but it was all controlled, and no one was allowed to deviate from that. We even had things called pool agreements. So it would be a bit like John Lewis and Marks and Spencer's, both stocking the same sweaters, selling them, putting all the money in a pot and sharing it 50-50, and saying it doesn't matter who sold it, we'll just share the revenues. On routes in Europe, that's how it used to happen. You flew at London, Amsterdam, and KLM, and BA would pool that revenue and then split it equally with the Dutch airline. That's how we used to do business up until the late 1970s, early 80s. Even things like how many cashew nuts you could give in first class were controlled by the trade association, IATA. So, why do you need to have a brand? So what happened was, we coordinated with each other. We didn't compete. We had cartels, we had our trade association. Airlines were trophies of their national countries. They were pretty poorly managed. Most of us were state-owned. Most of us were run by civil servants. who really were only interested in how many free tickets they got in first class, rather than whether the airline actually had to make any money. Travel agents controlled the industry. When I joined BA in '86, 20% of our total expenditure every year went on distribution.